Hello, and welcome to Copy That, the series from Quadcast that's all about copywriting. I'm your host, Lewis, and today I'm joined by Sheryl Hickey to talk all things copy. Sheryl, thanks so much for being here. It's great to have you on.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Thank you so much for being here. I'm really looking forward to our conversation. I'm really looking forward to getting into everything and anything that there is to do about copywriting and quite possibly screenwriting as well. It's kind of my forte. So I would love to start just with the first question that I ask everybody, which is how did you get into copywriting?
Yeah, well, it's been a long journey. Basically, pre-pandemic, I was actually a tour guide or tour coordinator, which now I realize was basically like being a storyteller on wheels. And I started when the lockdown hit, and then obviously lost all work to do with tour guiding. I started a travel blog just to get all my ideas out and everything that I'd learned. And I learned about SEO and optimizing blog posts and affiliate marketing and things like that. And then after when things started again, I got into writing for a digital content team. So I was just in a part of the editorial team. So I did that for 3 years. There was a lot of networking involved and finding out about lots of different businesses. That was kind of more the broadcast media industry. And around that, like whilst I was doing that job, I also started doing screenwriting as a little side project, more of a creative outlet. And then I pivoted from the screenwriting and I kind of saw how storytelling skills can translate into copywriting. And I started up just doing little bits of copywriting on the side. I did a copywriting course. And then I started using that in more and more in my writing. And then in December last year, I decided to quit the 9 to 5 and went freelance. And yeah, I wanted to work. I'm quite thirsty for knowledge and I like working with various different people. And I like to get under the bonnet and find out how things work. So that was my way of being able to do that by working freelance. And I've always been writing and editing content in previous roles, but also just hobbies and everything as well. So copywriting just felt like a natural expansion of that. And it just allows me to mix creativity and strategy.
Amazing. I feel like for any kind of creative person, anybody that's kind of creatively minded, it's that thirst for continued knowledge and just always wanting to know a little bit more about the craft that you feel the most passionately about. And
Yeah.
so I'd love to know, was writing always the end goal, or did you sort of end up in this sort of field by a happy accident?
I've always been a writer and I've always known that writing is something that I'm very connected to. And yeah, so it's been kind of like a natural progression, I'd say. But it's always been that thing in the back of my mind, like I just want to be a writer. I just want to be a writer. But whilst having that in the back of my mind, going through various other jobs before actually getting to the point of being like, no, I'm going to do this now. And I think a lot of people have gone through that, especially since the pandemic, where everyone's been like, it's okay to shift careers at 45, or, it's okay to follow your passion, even if it means 2 years you're going to be broke. But by the end of it, you're going to be doing something that you love. And I think a lot of people, have been in that boat over the last few years. Like things have really shifted. So yeah, I think it was always going to happen at some point. I just needed to have that like self-esteem to be like, I'm doing it.
Yeah, because before the pandemic, I think it's always a really interesting conversation to sort of know what people's lives were like pre and post COVID. And mine, I was very low self-esteem. I worked in coffee shops, not that the two things are related. And then, I don't know, something just happened being by myself where I just thought, actually, you know what? Like, I'm going to go and pursue exactly what it is that I want to do. And from there, it's led to being a happier person. I think there's so much that can be said about just how, your mental health can be so much better by just doing what you want to do. It's that whole adage of find a job you love and you'll never work a day in your life.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's kind of also, I think when you start pulling on that thread, more things start coming your way. You start noticing things that are like on your path and sometimes lead you down into the dense forest, and other times they're like, okay, this works. So yeah, it's just all about experimenting with that, I guess.
So I'd love to know, have you specialized in a particular niche or industry within your freelance work?
Yeah, I've kind of been narrowing down my niche, but what I've realized that they all have in common, all the people that I work for, is that they're quite bold, innovative brands. So any brands that are like, trying to be quite different, do like rewrite the rules, or they can't be squeezed into a box sort of thing, or they're just doing something that's a little bit, maybe bringing up a taboo subject or something like that. Those are the ones that I really like to work with. But my background is always in travel. I've traveled to 64 countries, and I've done lots of living abroad and lots of going out into the wild and being quite adventurous and stuff. So travel brands, and also obviously because I have my tour guiding background and working for various travel brands in the past in different roles. So travel and wellness, which are my top things that I do in life in general. Like I've written for a friend's brand who she does kind of wellness retreats for the corporate world, that kind of thing. So yeah, anything to do with the travel or wellness space, but also the kind of like the sexual wellness and those taboo brands that people don't really know how to get the right words to get across. And it's all about being, like we were talking about, the authenticity thing as well. It's all about putting yourself out there, not being afraid. You have something to be proud of, and you're actually shaping what is out there and what's available and what information is available to people. So that kind of like sex positivity, body positivity, those kind of spaces is what I'm really interested in working in, and just finding those right words and getting out those stories. I mean, you can see it on my website. I've kind of go into this a little bit more in one of my blog posts and what this means, but it's all about showing up as yourself and showing up proud as well. And that's the kind of message that I want to help people get across.
That's incredible. I think we have moved, not to sit here and talk about sexual wellness for the next 10 minutes, but it's, I think as we've moved into a more sex positive society, I think the type of content that, helpful content that's out there kind of does need to be improved upon. So that's really amazing. That's a really incredible thing to do.
Yeah, definitely. And a lot of like the bigger brands are taking this into account as well, because people do speak more openly, and like we are going into this world now where taboo just isn't going to exist. It's going to be, let's talk about this in a healthy way. What are our healthy boundaries around this? And a lot of the wellness space is also on board with this as well, which is really great, because that's where people's minds are going, and you want to be a step ahead. So you want to make sure that you are reflecting that in your brand messaging and your copy.
Obviously, you say that you've always wanted to be a writer, but I would love to know, did you study writing formally, or has it been more of a learn on the job sort of situation?
So with copywriting, I am self-taught, although I said like I did do a course in copywriting, but I follow a lot of marketers and sort of YouTubers that talk about content marketing and copywriting itself. And I just learned through practice and signing up for various online challenges, things like that. But I studied English and journalism at university. I did various little roles in like internships, writing internships. I worked in the newsroom of Birmingham newspaper. And then definitely decided that wasn't for me, working in a newsroom. But so I've always had like some form of outlet. Sometimes it's through, like I did my travel blog. Even before I started looking into the actual optimized blogs, I had this outlet which was just a shared between friends, put it on Facebook sort of thing, about my various travels. And even like writing groups, joining writing groups as well. And I think now I probably work more than ever, because it's a little bit like opening a pack of Pringles and then digging deeper into it. And then when I started doing screenwriting, that gave me a bit of structure and learning about dialogue and pacing, and it also led me on to more learning and reading more about writing techniques. And it even led me into doing a bit of an acting course as well. Which is all about like audience reaction. So it's a interesting, like I felt like when I was doing acting, it was a completely different part of my brain that I'm using, that I'm activating. So that was really interesting. And I think it all ties in together. It's all about like being present for your audience and getting the reaction and the activity that you want from them. So I'm just constantly writing, constantly trying to hone the craft.
Those are some incredible insights there, because I do feel like with every sort of medium that you can write in, and with every format that you can write in, everything requires a different tone, and everything requires a different sort of cadence of prose. And so do you have a specific type of format that you love to write in? Do you prefer blogs over screenplays or screenplays over play scripts? What do you like to write the most?
I actually really enjoy lately. I really enjoy writing emails
Mm,
because I feel like with emails, it's like you've already got that. They're already warm leads who you have. They're already people who have signed up because they like something that you've offered, even if it's just a pop up on your website. You've already enticed them. So I feel like with emails, you can be a bit more personal
yeah.
with your tone that you use. So I do my own newsletter, and I've spoken to other business owners who they're really quite like they really enjoy doing their own newsletters because it's their chance to speak to their audience directly of people who are already warm, like I said. But then there's also, there's these techniques that you also need to embed into your emails, which is the reaction from your audience. So I kind of like pulling together everything that I've learned. I really like writing emails, but I do also like doing like about pages for people's websites as well, and making sure that you're really giving a clear idea to your audience of what you offer them and how it benefits them. But yeah, I just like to pull all the techniques together more than anything, I'd say, rather than having a favorite format to write in.
Yeah. I think for me, having done copywriting and having done screenwriting before and long form essays at university and writing in all the kind of mediums that we do, I completely agree in that there's no one sort of set thing that I like doing the most. The one that I find challenging the most is social media copy because I find it really hard to be concise. When I've got a word limit, I really struggle. And
Yeah, yeah,
I just
been there.
can't. I just can't do it. A character limit is just, my worst kind of nightmare. I just can't do it.
Yeah.
So obviously within writing, within all of these different sorts of formats, I would love to know how you get started on a particular piece of copy. Are you a planner? Do you like to just jump straight in? Do you like to brainstorm? What do you like to do?
Yeah, so I've thought about this. I feel like there's two different avenues that you take to get to the final piece. And one is you're inspired by an idea and you do a brain dump, and it's all just coming from you. Like, what does this say? You're selling, I don't know, a meditation retreat in Portugal. What does that conjure up for you? So for me as a writer, what does that, and an experienced traveler and somebody who's into wellness and into all of that, what do I already know? So you pull together everything that you already know, and then you would go onto your research, and from those ideas, it's kind of like a spider web of like, you pull out one of those ideas, you research that, you pull out another one, you research that. But then the other avenue is what already exists and what is important to that brand that you're writing for. So for example, it will be they want to reach it's just a random example, they want to reach pensioners or like people who have just finished their career or something like that, or people who are on a career shift. So then it's kind of like you're looking at that market. So you've done your own knowledge on things, that's the creativity part of it, and then you do the research part, which is tailored to that brand and to their audience, and you do the competitor research and stuff like that. So I do those two avenues, and then I pull it all together, and then I will scribble as much down as possible to just get a really messy first draft. And then I do use AI now as well. Sometimes I'll just put all of that into AI and then get it to pull out what are the key messages here, or what is the what tone am I, what tone am I naturally using for this, or whatever. I ask it a few prompts as well, and then I might even ask it for like a structure of how to structure pull these different things out. But I read through and comb through, and then I do a second draft, which more resembles something that would look eventually like a finished piece, but then there's also lots of rubbish in there as well. And then I quite like to just leave it to brew, maybe overnight or however long you need. Go off and do your daydreaming, do your procrastinating.
Yeah.
But actually procrastination is still progress, and I read this a lot. It's actually where you brew your ideas and everything, and then I'd come back to it and refine it, and then I look into the questions. I have like questions pinned at the top of my piece that are, who am I talking to? What are they doing at this moment in time when they're reading it? What do they want out of it? What are their pain points? Like all of those kind of things. And then I comb through with that perspective And then finally, somewhere along the line, you will get a finished piece. But yeah, and I drink lots of coffee in the meantime.
And that fuels the
and
writing.
maybe do a few breathing exercises when I've had too much coffee.
I've been coffee free now for 6 years, so
Wow,
you drink
that's
for the both of
impressive.
us. It was
My God.
down to a medical issue, so no more coffee for
Okay.
me, sadly.
Okay.
I can
Oh,
still drink
well.
tea, weirdly, but no coffee. It's the caffeine.
Okay.
Don't know why.
Yeah.
Um, so obviously within brainstorming and letting things stew and procrastinating and all of these things that go into creating at least something, a final product that you're happy with, how often will you find that you rewrite, or how happy are you to rewrite things until you're happy and until the client's happy?
Well, it is tough because I am a perfectionist and I like to make sure that I've like everything is in there that I want. And you can be your own worst critic for days, or you can
Massively.
be like, yeah, it's like there's a saying as well, like, doesn't have to be perfect, just has to be good enough. Like there's a point where you need to just put that hat on and go, I've done all my research, I've done all my drafts, I've done all of this, like just have a little bit of confidence in yourself. So yeah, I'd say I probably do about 5 edits before I'm actually at a point where I'm happy with it. But then I feel like that's also hard to judge, because sometimes one edit might take 2 days, and like how many edits are there really?
Yeah.
How long is a piece of string? But yeah, I just want to make sure that it flows and that there is rhythm. And then what you read at the top, say if you're doing web copy for a homepage, the everything is clear from the headline, and then you go a bit further into it, and then you give them some proof, and that it ticks off all the boxes of having all the components for a successful piece of copy that's going to keep your audience engaged, give them a really clear idea of who you are, what you do, if they're right for you or not, and that there is the call to action, obviously, which a lot of people miss out, weirdly.
I just want to draw upon when you've said audience engagement, and obviously, we've spoken about this previously, of course, with the acting classes that you've taken away messages from there. And I think it's that audience engagement that is the most pivotal thing for me. And if I can feel like I'm sending something off to a client and I feel happy enough with it, and I go, yes, their audience is going to be satisfied while reading this, that to me is the equivalent of a job well done. And as much as I like to pat myself on the back, I do like to think that I can then write something that's going to be at least entertaining. So is that something that's also important for you, to make sure that the reader is entertained as well as engaged?
Yes, definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah, but also that they're really clear about what you're offering and if it's right for them as well, because copywriting isn't about trying to convince every single person to buy your product or service. It's about asking the right people in the correct way that is actually persuasive but not pushy. Like there's a really fine line between the two. And I think the way that I always see it is when you ask somebody like, who's your audience? Like I'm speaking to a business owner, who's your audience? And so many people just say, oh, everyone, but it's not everybody. Like not everybody needs what you have. So the more that you can define like who that person is, the clearer you can get on your messaging.
Yeah, definitely. It's finding that right audience and making sure that you're writing for that very specific sort of audience. I like to think that I write with a very like primary target audience in mind, and then secondary audience is sort of just equally as important, because you never know who within that secondary audience can become primary audience based on the words that you've written. And it's that it's that sort of influence that you can have. It's, if you're writing for a travel company, are you able to sell a resort, a specific country even, as best as you possibly can to draw people to that? And I think that can be incredibly powerful. And I think there's a certain huge amount of influence that you can sort of have as a copywriter to really make or break something.
Yeah, exactly. And that's also like where the strategy comes into it. Like there's going to be a way that you speak to your Instagram audience that's slightly different to the way that you speak on your about page, or on an email campaign that you're trying to push, a promotion in 48 hours or whatever. It's going to be a different tone or different incentive that you have in the way that you speak to those people.
Yeah, it's that learning what the different platforms and the right tones to use for those platforms. That to me is like it's like a mental block at all times, because I can be quite good at LinkedIn copy, and I can be good. I would say I was good at what Twitter was before it is what it is now, when, it was just kind of like a dumping ground of thoughts rather than,
Yeah.
a right-wing hellscape. And I was quite good at those before. Instagram I struggle with, because it's that aesthetic appeal of
Yeah.
Instagram that it constantly always is. I can't do that. I'm not that sort of minded.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I think that's the interesting about Instagram for copywriters is like actually you're showcasing your storytelling skills, but Instagram is a visual platform. Remember when Instagram started and it was basically photography, and
Yeah.
now it's just gone berserk. So it's really important to like the storytelling aspect that comes into, and actually Instagram is quite well set up, like the carousels that I do, I always make sure that they have like a story flow to them, partially because it's just more fun to write like that as well, but also because it's using that platform to your advantage as much as possible as a writer.
Yeah, and it's within that visual sort of component as well. It's testing other elements of what you're able to do as a creative. I am not a designer, so I'll hold my hands up and say I don't take any accountability for the visual things that we put out. But the words, they're all me. So it's balancing that sort of creative freedom that you've got that is able to then really drive you forwards. So how are you able to balance your own creativity while ensuring that the client needs are met?
Yeah, well, I always dig into their needs before I start any writing with them. I send them a questionnaire and I make sure that everything that I need is going to be covered in that questionnaire. And if they are a little bit vague on the answers and I need clarification, or if there's something that like I have a gut feeling, like I don't really know if I know enough about XYZ, I'll just ask them, so that before I even start, I quite like to just spend as much time on them as possible before I start writing, so that when I am writing, it doesn't matter if they don't hear from me for a week. They know that I'm on it. They know that I've like really got to the bare bones of what it is that they're trying to say. So I do think that is like the setup is really important. You've got to know all of the information before you can begin. And sometimes, you start writing and you're like, oh, actually, there's something I'm not clear about. And I would just clarify that with them. And the main thing is that you really need to understand your client's needs and what their idea around the whole thing is. And if there is any kind of consultation that you can give them as a copywriter, you make sure you do that at the beginning as well, so that if you do go off on a tangent because you're like, oh, actually the copy would be more successful this way, you've already communicated it to them. And then just going back to like what I was saying before about the avenues of writing, doing your own research and everything that you already know, and then baking it together. And you just keep peeling it back until you've got it really succinct and that it ticks off all those boxes. And I go back to the original questionnaire before I submit it to the client and just make sure, oh yeah, that's all in there. Or if it isn't in there, I've got a reason for it not being in there.
It sounds like a really engaging way for you to make sure that you both, like, every bit is happy. And I think it's that sort of healthy working relationship that keeps people enthused, and making sure that, they trust, that they're putting their trust and their faith in you to make sure that you're doing the best possible work that you can, while also making sure that you're happy and knowing that you're putting out the best possible work that you can. And that's a really important kind of symbiotic sort of client freelance relationship. I applaud that. So we talked briefly before just about usage in AI and how you've started to use that to sort of bounce ideas off of. And I'd love to move away more from the work conversation now and get into like the real meat of this sort of AI topic now. And I'd love to know what your sorts of takes on AI tools within copywriting is or are.
I mean, I think it's one of those things that everyone's evolving with AI. The world's gone a little bit mad with AI. And I think that it's still there's lots of room for improvement with the tools. I know that they are data hungry, so you get out of them what you feed into them, which is fine. However, it's not quite there yet. For example, like for me, basically, so one of my big things is travel. So I pitch to a lot of travel brands, who I want to work with, and I will sometimes like ask ChatGPT, can you write me a little blurb about myself? And it keeps coming back with this thing of like, if you don't find me on a beach, you'll find me trying out all the street food in Bangkok. I'm like, I don't eat street food and I'm traveling because it makes me slightly nervous. But it's just kind of like this one thing that it's just like, it's got an idea of who I am and it's just not who I am. So there's kind of like little things like that. But what I've come to realize over the last months really is that we do have to work with AI. There's no getting around not using it. It's about getting efficient with it, and it's about accepting its flaws and having confidence in your own ability as a human creative to overcome those flaws and put your input into it. Because I have used it for like my Instagram captions, for example, but then I'll always edit what it gives me because like it's just sometimes just doesn't make any sense. I'm like, does it think this is funny? Like it doesn't really have a great sense of humor in my experience. So I do think like, you know, human nuances, humor, and also empathy, which is massive if you
massively so.
Tell a story. They're irreplaceable. So, you know, do all your drafts on AI, put your prompts in there and see what it comes back with, but don't use that as the end product. You do still need the copywriting skills to make sure that you're putting the right prompts in there in the first place. And I see so many businesses who do an Instagram post and they use AI for their captions, which is all great. They're still getting the information across, but there's no call to action, or there's no engagement tactic, or there is no, there's no compelling headline, or there's no hook, for example. So it's kind of like it's good to use, but you still have to know how to use it. You still have to know what you want to get out of it. You still have to train as a copywriter to know what to include, sort of thing. So I think that's it. I think so. Still use it as a tool, but know what you're doing. And if you don't know what you're doing, then you are missing a huge trick. And like make sure that it's in your voice. Always make sure it's in your brand voice. Make sure you've got your brand voice clear before you go anywhere near it, because it will just completely bulldoze you and make you sound generic as everybody else. And then no one's going to really remember you as a brand. You're not going to stand out. So
it's just interesting to hear everybody's takes on this sort of topic, because, you know, over the weeks that I've done this, I think I'm sort of almost coming to the sort of thought process that is AI just the biggest technological fad of the 2020s? You know, is in the same way that like Siri is kind of like the biggest fad of the 2010s. You know, it's just, is it going to be able to evolve with the times to be something that people are using on a day-to-day basis, or is it something that's just kind of going to be left in this decade and people are going to avoid it? It's that sort of like predicting the futureness that you just can't really do. It's, you know, my personal view is that I don't use it to write my copy, but I will use it for research purposes. I'll use it to bounce ideas off of. I use it to create images if I feel like having a laugh. I would recommend ask it to create an image based on what it thinks of you. And so I got it to do one of me earlier this year, and it was perhaps the most depressing thing I've ever seen, because it was it generated this image of me as I'm a runner, so I was in running shoes and like full running regalia, and there was like this sad golden retriever next to me, because I remember once I asked what signs of depression in dogs looked like, and then behind me was this whiteboard that had just the words "P pesto" written on it. I was like, where did that come from? And every now and then I'll think about it and I'll go and find it and I'll look at it and I'll just think, what on earth am I looking at? It was absolutely fantastic. So if anybody's looking for a good laugh, go and ask it for
that's actually that could be quite a fun one. Well, I actually have a sketch from an AI robot that it did of me based on questions that it was asking me and different things that it could pick up visually as well. It was quite a high-tech thing, and it was bizarre. It was really bizarre, but it does show that they're really developing it a lot. And I think with all of that sort of stuff, it really depends on like what is being funded, like what research is being funded, what tools are being funded. Those are the things that are going to be big, and those are the things that are going to affect how we work as creatives. And I think the overriding feeling that I have at the moment is like there is all this hype about AI. No one's quite got there with using it in a way. I don't know, maybe they have and they're just really good at hiding it. But just generally speaking to the people that I speak to, and I speak to people all the time because I'm quite chatty. I speak to a lot of business owners and like creatives in SMEs about, you know, like I have friends that work for various companies and we talk really openly about it. So it's just kind of interesting that a lot of creatives that I speak to aren't happy with the results, but I know that a lot of people are just sort of like, it'll do, I don't have the time to make it better. But I also think there's all this content noise at the moment where it's all this bulk AI stuff coming out and it doesn't mean that it's effective. And that's what we kind of need to be careful of. And there's a lot of content creators that are just overwhelmed by chasing the algorithms and all of that kind of stuff. It's just gone a little bit bonkers. And I think there's going to be a tipping point. And I think that after that tipping point, things are going to settle. But I think at the moment, it's really important for us copywriters to work with it and still continue to develop ourselves and not forget about doing the writing yourself as well, because it's a lifelong skill and it's something that not everyone can do because it does take so long to do. And I constantly read about writing. I constantly watch YouTube tutorials about improving writing. And I think a lot of people who work in businesses that think that they can just get all of their AI to do their content for them, they're really going to be relying too much on that. And I think there's a bit of a danger in that.
Yeah, definitely. So it's like you say, writing is a talent, and you have to continuously work at a talent to really nurture and nourish it. Otherwise, you're going to lose that sort of skill. And I think there is an inherent laziness with just generating AI generated copy, because you could get an actual writer to do it, and it's probably going to be a bit better. I've been finding that it's the more that we kind of get into it and the more AI generated content that there is out there, the easier it is to pick up on what is and isn't AI generated. And I was scrolling through a Wikipedia article the other day. I cannot remember who it was, but it was it was Emma Watson's Wikipedia based on, there's been some beef with J.K. Rowling and Emma Watson. And I just thought, I'm just going to look at Emma Watson's Wikipedia to see what the summary of this all is. And there was a whole section about her humanitarian work. And you could just reading it, you could tell based on the headline alone of that section that it was all AI generated, because it was styled in a very ChatGPT way. It had very generic phrasing. It had weird punctuation usage. And it was just, yes, okay, like for Wikipedia, sure, I don't care for this sort of purpose. As long as the information is factual, I'm not interested. But if I was to come to somebody's travel blog and I was to read, or a film blog, or something that I, am passionate about, I don't want to read that sort of thing because I want it to feel like there's some sort of human connection. And I think that speaks to maybe possibly something from the pandemic, is that sort of craving for human connection, because we are social creatures. So who knows? Not to get all philosophical about it, but that's sort of my view at the moment.
And also it's like even just like the digital overload as well. Like people are really craving like detoxing and actual connection and nature and things like that, and things that you just can't get from all of this, like all of these developments that are happening with technology. It's kind of like draining people's souls. So when they read something, they need to feel connected to it. Otherwise, you're not going to get them to where you want them to be. If that's clicking on a button to, get involved in whatever you're offering, you're not going to get there unless you connect with them. And I think that's just going to be a really key thing going forwards.
Yeah, especially in an age where dopamine hits are, dopamine addiction is such a thing. And, we have such short attention spans now. In an age where we're constantly craving that instant rush of dopamine, you need to make sure that you're engaging somebody from the first couple of sentences, from the first 5 minutes of a film, from the first 10 seconds of a song, whatever it might be that's creative. You need to hook your audience, whoever they may be, straight away. Otherwise, you've lost them. Yeah,
it's just too easy to just go swipe by, forgotten.
Exactly. And it's what can you do? What can you do that's flashy? How can you make this seem like the most impressive thing? And how can you try and convince your audience that this is really worth your time.
Yeah.
And that to me is, I think I always look at these sorts of things from a film marketing sort of perspective. So my undergraduate was film studies. So I kind of come at these things from a more media centric point of view. And it's when there's, we live in an age now since COVID where, the prices to go to the cinema have skyrocketed to extremes, and people just aren't going anywhere near as much. So the types of films that get made become fewer and far between. So there's less there's less resources put into smaller projects and more put into these massive projects that they know are going to be these massive money makers. And that to me is also a concern, especially when you translate that very situation to writing and copywriting. Are resources going to be put into bigger projects from bigger companies and not given to smaller creatives, smaller projects, up and coming copywriters, junior copywriters? Again, it's that feeling of you can't predict the future. You can just hope that things don't get bad.
Yeah. It's true though. It's like everything's franchised, isn't it? Like the movie industry, it's all Marvel or whatever. So no, it's a good point. Like things are getting filtered out. It's going to be an interesting decade ahead.
Massively so. I think, just to, while I'm on the topic of film, I think that is something that is inherently sort of changing. I think the Gen Alpha, which is below Gen Z, I believe they're called, and they're craving going to the cinema and they're craving more independent film, and that is great because it means that more interesting projects can be made, and the franchiseification of cinema is kind of on its way out, which is amazing for me. And that's a really wonderful thing because it's forcing studios to really look at what it is that they're making and really pull back on what it is, really pulling back on these massive projects. So you can just hope.
Well, also, if you think about it, they're also from this generation where their parents are stuck on their phone all the time. And these kids are just like, when do we get to do stuff? Like, boring.
Yeah. When can we stop small screen time and have big screen time?
Yeah. When can we go and experience life again?
Yeah, exactly. And I just hope that younger generations will want to experience life again. I know I do.
I'm sure they will. Well, this is also the thing. I do think there's going to be more and more of a wave of real life experiences that people are craving, and then it brings it back to the storytelling, the real life stuff, the things that everybody else has been through, because we're all empathetic by nature, unless you're a psychopath. Like that. like we're all actually, the core of us all is all like we want to connect to each other. We are little community people, and if you don't have that in your brand voice, and that's not one of your trajectories or one of your priorities as a brand, then that is where you're going to slip away.
Yeah, massively so. And I think with the whole AI conversation, there simply is so much that can be said. And it's going to be one of those topics that's a never-ending thing. There's a LinkedIn article every other day. Maybe multiple every day, who knows? And it's just going to be something that continuously evolves, and all we can hope is that human writers aren't replaced with robot writers. But also, I think at the same time, I don't necessarily have that same concern in the same way that I did 6 months ago.
Well, because if you think about it, if you're an avid reader, right, and there's a thing of you can't insult an audience's intelligence, right?
Yeah.
It's like when you watch a film and it's so predictable and you're like, who the hell wrote this? This is terrible. It's almost like that's just wasted my time. I've just wasted 10 quid at the cinema and 2 hours of my life. So it's kind of like you can't insult your audience by diminishing what is quality writing. So I do think that there's an element of people who read a lot, especially, or people who are clued up about whatever it is. They're not going to stand for just AI gibberish. There's going to be some loyalty towards, there's going to be a lot of loyalty towards human writers.
Yeah,
I hope.
Well, you'd certainly hope so. But I think it all comes back to this thing of people want actual emotionally resonant creative work, whether it's copy, whether it's a novel, a film, art, whatever it might be. That's what people crave from their creatives. And I just don't think that AI generated art is something that is going to stand the test of time.
Yeah.
So I would love to move away from the AI conversation now, just because I feel like we could possibly be here until Christmas talking about it. And it's the same with every single one of these episodes. I feel that, we could sit and talk for hours about it, because I think copywriters do have quite similar, quite intense opinions about AI, and that's great, and it's a great conversation to have. But even I have to rein myself in and go like, right, it's time to stop. So it's kind of picking up on some things that we did speak about throughout the AI conversation, of wanting to make sure that sort of younger copywriters are being, led into this career gently, and not being turned away for, AI generation tools. So I would love to know, is there anything that you wish that more people understood about what it is that we do?
Yeah. So, I mean, there's one level of it is like copywriting is nothing to do with copyright, the law of copyright. Sometimes I have to have that conversation. I'm like, yes, no, like they're like, oh, I see you like a lawyer. I'm like, oh no. So I think like understanding that it's a blend of strategy, storytelling, and also human psychology, because you are thinking of how is this going to affect, just coming back to like the acting thing, how is this affecting my audience, and how are they going to react, and are they involved, like are they on the edge of their seats, are they, like this kind of thing. There's a lot of that process that goes through your thoughts when you are writing, and it's always about getting the result from your audience. It's not just about a word count, it's not just about two of the best words, it's about, are those words actually getting you where you need your audience to be. But also, like, it takes such a long time to write and to edit, and I think just having a bit of respect for that process as well. Like, if I pitch a project to a company and say I can write your entire email sequence, and I can do some LinkedIn posts go along with that, and some other complementary bits that go along with that, that there's a strategy behind all of those things that I'm offering. And I mean, I do think that people generally understand that side of it, but the consistency in building your brand, the consistency in your brand voice, that's how you're going to get active followers. And just kind of having an understanding of the thought process that goes into it. Like, you need to put in the legwork to get the right message across, and to get the right audience as well, and to empathize with them, to make sure that they understand you understand them, and that's the transaction. Not just about convincing them, it's about really developing a relationship with them.
Yeah, exactly. I think that's a really fantastic answer. For me, it's all just about the value that we bring. And I know that kind of does come under the convincing them sort of argument, but to me, it's just, we do bring a lot of value. And, whether it's just the work that we actually write, or within the working relationship, what value do we bring to their team? What value do we bring to their content? And that to me is sort of what I wish that more people understood about what we do. And there's lots of things that, I generally do wish, but I think it's just still part of that AI conversation of, please don't replace us. So with that in mind, how do you see copywriting evolving over the next few years? I know it's impossible to predict the future, but do you have any sort of feelings?
Like I said before, I do think that we're in this content fatigue situation. There's all this noise being pumped out. Everyone is also, people telling you must do one post a day, things like that. Like, it's not realistic. Like, you can't keep doing that. Like, as long as you're consistent, consistency is the key. But there's just kind of like this panic at the moment of, you must keep talking. But I think that it's going to be a little bit more, I hope it's going to be a bit more strategized, like, as in, we are saying this today and this next week, and we're building up to just basically going back to standard marketing of nurturing for a campaign, rather than just like pumping it out. It's like, but where are you going with it all? Like, what is the thread to all of this? Is it because you're nurturing, like, say you have a think of an example. You're a breathwork coach, right?
Yeah.
And it's September and you want to do a January stress-free campaign, but you start nurturing that from, months ahead, and you lead into that, and you build up your audience. And then as soon as the moment is right, that's when you drop your campaign in. So going back to that, rather than just like post every day, it's just like, I don't want to see your face every day, actually. Like, I know that sounds pretty harsh, but it's kind of true. It's like I see all the same people pop up all the time. I'm like, but it's valuable what you're doing, and are you leading into something, or am I just going to keep seeing you until you burn out?
Yeah. I don't want to see your face, I want to see your brain. Like,
Yeah,
give me your ideas.
Yeah. So I think there's a bit of that. And I think there's going to be more focus on, authenticity has kind of been the buzzword for the last couple of years, but I think that there's going to be even more focus on that, and sharing stuff about why you started your brand in the first place. What is your story? What's your personal connection to it? And just also making sure that you have that consultation at the start, so that that's where you're leading to. So more strategy, not just wordsmithery.
You can't predict what the future is going to bring, but I think I really would love to draw on authenticity. I think that is something that audiences are craving more now than ever in the age of the influencer. And I think societally we're quite possibly more aware that social media is a facade. And I think that the more that awareness for that sort of thing has evolved, I think the more that we've craved authenticity. And I think it's done the world good to see that people are genuine rather than looking at these hyper stylized versions of people's lives. So I really do love that answer, because to me, that's exactly what I would love to see more of in the coming years.
Yeah.
And that's just what I'd love the tone of things to be.
Yeah, I feel like it's going to have to be, because there's so many like bad mental health situations coming out of social media overload, and like, kids feeling that they need to airbrush themselves before they put themselves in front of a screen and stuff. And it's kind of like, it's quite worrying. But I think, again, it's that tipping point is going to have to happen. People are already against those kind of things. And I think the more authentic that you can be, the more that just shows that you're more progressive. And people, marketing is all about being progressive.
Yeah, exactly. Definitely so. So I would love to move away from the work side of things now for the last few questions that I've got for you. And I would just love to know, is there a writer that you particularly admire? And it could be anyone from a novelist, a screenwriter, a biographer, a copywriter. Is there anybody?
I find this one really hard to answer, because I've got loads of them.
Name them all.
So I read fiction, I read non-fiction. So on the non-fiction side of things, I do like to read about improving writing techniques. And I think that one book that lots of writers will always recommend is Stephen King on writing, because he shares about how he's constantly pumping out books. Like, it's insane the amount of books that he's written. So I think for somebody to have that volume of a backlog and of stories that are reinvented over and over again, I think it's a really important book for anyone to read that wants to do writing. And one of the things that I love about that book is he talks about reading quite a lot. Like, he's an avid reader, and he talks about reading in sips and gulps. So it could just be like, you're in the queue to get on a bus, you read half a paragraph, or like gulps where you just sit for hours and finish a book on a Sunday afternoon. And then another really good book that I like for copywriters it's called Everybody Writes by Anne Handley. And she's just very funny, and she's very kind of quite daring and bold in her style of writing. And it covers everything. And it's something that I constantly go back to when I'm a bit stuck on writing a web page, for example, or if I'm doing a blog post and like, oh, what am I doing with this again? I'll go back to that book. And it's just sometimes better than just searching for everything on the internet. And then for actual novelists and screenwriters, I actually love the script. I've read some of the Succession scripts because they're just fascinating with the dialogue and how it carries the story. And I also loved reading the Black Swan script as well, just because it's actually quite a descriptive script for screenplay. Where really you would leave a lot of that stuff out, but it's actually quite interesting how it's just dark from start to finish. And then in terms of novel writers, I really love Caitlin Moran because she's just hilarious, and I feel like every woman can relate to her. And also Stephen Fry, again, for his storytelling, and he is really good at balancing humor in there as well. And I'd say another writer that I've followed, and I love her for her like political stance as well, is Arundhati Roy. She wrote The God of Small Things. So she's an Indian writer, but she speaks up a lot about, Palestine and everything as well. And I think she's just got a really beautiful poetic style. Yeah, so I'd say those. Oh, and the one that I've started recently is Gillian Anderson's book on Want, which is all about female pleasure, which is very interesting.
That was a fantastic book. Yeah, that was.
Yeah. And I'm actually doing the audio book. So it's her voice in the intro, and she's just got the most delightful voice to listen to.
It's just the most delightfully soothing voice that you could possibly ever imagine. And does she read it in her English or American accent?
She's English, and I didn't realize that she's actually from somewhere in the Midlands. She's slightly northern, and I didn't realize that before because she's always quite posh, isn't she, in her roles?
Yeah,
but she's got like a little twang, which was quite pleasing.
Every time that she speaks in an American accent, it's wrong to me, and then every time she speaks in a British accent, it's wrong to me. It's just it always sounds wrong, but I love it. I just love her so much. I think the thing with any writer is there are so many writers that you so deeply admire for so many different reasons, and it's drawing influences or just for pure entertainment. And for me, I've really loved, so I recently reread the script for Howard's End, which was adapted by Ruth Pravajabvala. I believe I pronounced her name correctly. And she's just got the most incredibly comedic way of writing that is so... I mean, Howard's End isn't funny, but it's still she has this incredible way about her that's witty without being condescending, and she's dramatic without being overly dramatic. She's just an incredible writer, and there's
nice.
She's a writer, a screenwriter, and a novelist that I would recommend to anybody.
Okay, I'll put her on my list.
Yeah, I mean, her work, say Howard's End and The Remains of the Day, might not be for everybody because they're period pieces, and they Merchant Ivory films written by Ruth Pravajabvala. That is they are my thing. So. I would then love to know, so I like to listen to a lot of film scores, I like to listen to just a lot of instrumental music as I write, and I would love to know, have you got any recommendations for things to listen to while you write, if any at all? And so, what should we be listening to?
As somebody with ADHD, I actually prefer good old-fashioned silence. That's my preference. However, what sometimes I do have on, say I'm working at home and my housemates are all busy around the house and there's just constant distractions, or there's too many things on my desk and hence I'm distracted constantly. I actually quite listen to binaural beats. So you can listen to gamma rays and beta rays. Apparently beta waves apparently are supposed to be the best ones for getting you into deep focus mode. So sometimes I put that on if I just need some kind of noise, but generally I can't listen to anything. I just put my headphones in and I just try to just go tunnel vision and deep focus. But when I'm not writing and I want to listen to playlists, podcasts, audiobooks, I would recommend there's the Copywriter Club. They have a really good podcast, and Filthy Rich Writer also. And then audiobooks, I've been listening to How to Write Copy That Sells and Donald Miller's book, Building a Story Brand. That's also good. So there's some good podcasts out there as well that you can have on whilst you're having your power walk or going to the gym or whatever. And another one that I really like as well is Originals by Adam Grant and Sheryl Sandberg, and it's how nonconformists change the world, and it's about people who just constantly have ideas and they just accept that their idea might flop, but you don't focus on one specific idea. You just kind of basically like blanket bomb your ideas.
Those are some fantastic recommendations. Thank you. I've not heard of some of those, so I will go and check them out. That's great. Lately, I've just as an audiobook that I constantly recommend. I'm listening to it for the second time this year, which is my fourth time overall because I'm a glutton for it's kind of embarrassing. It's My Name is Barbara by Barbara Streisand, the 48-hour-long autobiography.
Wow.
I'm not even a particularly big Barbara Streisand fan. Like, there's just something about hearing her speak in her very specific, like, Brooklyn accent that's really, like, really soothing to me.
Nice.
So it's,
yeah. I love an audiobook version of an autobiography when it's spoken in their voice, because it's just, you just get into their life a little bit more, I feel like.
Yeah, massively so.
Yeah.
And it was the Britney Spears autobiography.
Oh my God.
Normally with an autobiography, I will listen to it rather than read it. And like, so, but I bought that and read it because I knew it wasn't Britney Spears reading it. So I thought, I'm not really interested. But the Cher one from last year, part one of, which is releasing in 2 parts, the other one coming out this November, not that I'm, counting down the days, was recorded by Cher. So I was like, oh yes, this is.
Have you read Grace Jones' autobiography?
No, I can't say I knew she had one.
Yeah, no, that's a great one. So good.
I didn't even know that would be.
Her life was just like sparkle machine. Well, is a sparkle machine. She's still around.
I will go and seek that out. I didn't know that she had an autobiography. So that's a great one. Thank you. So Sheryl, this has been so amazing. Thank you so much for joining me today. I really appreciate you taking the time out of your day to be here, and it just means a lot. So I would just love to know, lastly, where can people find you and your work online?
So my website is www.sheswrites.com. Writes as in writer. Obviously, I need to point that out. I don't need to point that out, but some people have actually had to point. Not Shez rights like your human rights, but Shez rights. And then you can find me on LinkedIn. So Sheryl Hickey, Sheryl with an S. And my Instagram is Shez Writes Copy with an underscore. And so Shez_writes_copy. And on my Instagram, I tend to keep it to like tips and stories and insights on copy and strategy. And send me a DM because I will always answer, and I always am up for chatting to people. So yeah, that's how you can find me.
Amazing. Thank you so much. Once again, as probably the 3rd or 4th time I've said thank you to you in the last hour alone. Thanks so much for joining us, and thanks everybody for listening, and we will catch you next time.